Welcome to ControlTalk, your smart buildings video cast and podcast for the week ending June 12th, 2016. This is ControlTalk Now, where we talk all things control. From HVAC controls to pneumatics to training to new trends to building automation controls to cybersecurity. You name it, it has to do with controls. We want to talk about it. But who is the best talker on this show? It's the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, my co-host and your co-host, Kenny Smyers, the controls man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show. Big dog.
Oh, Eric, thank you very much for that generous introduction. I love it every time. It's a great day here in Pittsburgh. We've got 85 degrees and sun, and it's just can't believe another week went by. We've got some very, very good stuff on the show today. We've got a great interview with Ken St. Clair coming up. And how's things down there in Atlanta, Georgia?
Well, it's good, buddy. I tell you what, I just got back. I was up in Milwaukee last week, took a couple clients up there, and wanted just a special shout out to Chris Eichmann and Jenny and Robert Harlan and the rest of the team at JCI. I mean, they really, really did a fantastic job taking care of us, showing us some cool products they've got, and it was just first-class entertainment. And Chris let it be known that JCI will be on again as a platinum sponsor for the 2015 Control Trends Awards, which will be happening in Las Vegas at the Hard Rock on that Sunday night. And if you'll remember last year, I think it was our best show ever. And one of the things that people really liked about the show was we had the show at the Hard Rock, and then afterwards there was an open bar for about an hour, and everybody just sort of loved catching up. So without people like Chris Eichmann and Johnson Controls, the Control Trends Awards don't happen. So thanks to Chris for that. And again, thanks so much for the great hospitality. It took us to a Brewers game. And I tell you what, dude, it was cold up there, man, at least compared to down here.
We've got some kind of changing pressure centers and zones or whatever, because yesterday it was 58 degrees in the morning and today it's going to be 93, so we're having these really same thing with Pittsburgh's going through the same thing. We're not quite as north as Milwaukee, but it's very cold in the mornings and it gets like super hot in the afternoons, and so the differential is over 40 degrees some days. It's crazy.
Well, I tell you what, we got to go to the Brewers game, and Johnson Controls had a box there, so that was really cool. But I tell you what an incredible ballpark! If you ever get a chance to go to that ballpark, it is really one of the most beautiful ones I think I've been in. So, all right, big dog. Well, speaking of baseball, how are your Pirates doing?
Well, we're going to a game tonight or today. They were hot there for a while. They had one of the they were third leading team hitting in Major League Baseball, and that's fallen off and. Got a couple of pitchers that fell out of the rotation. So we went from being pretty close to Chicago to way behind. I think Chicago now is 9.5 games ahead of Pittsburgh. We're playing St. Louis, so we can determine our own future. We beat St. Louis 2 out of 3 games. We'll be in great shape. But Chicago Cubs are the hot team. They're playing fabulous baseball. They got one of the best pitching rotations and hitting lineups I've ever seen. So Pittsburgh is going to have to make a really, really charge to win games they're losing. The big thing at Pittsburgh, Eric, is the Pittsburgh Penguins. We lost the opportunity to win Stanley Cup here at home. We have some kind of jinx going on. We haven't won the championship in Pittsburgh for hockey since 1960. Something goes on. We always have to win away. San Jose had their best game against us 2 nights ago at the Constellation Center and played some good hockey. I'll tell you, it's really exciting. So for Pittsburgh, it would be an enormous boost. Pittsburgh, our ego industrially is gone. So one of the most important things in our city is sports. So we live and die by the success and failure of the Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, and some of the other sports teams. But so the city's hanging on by their fingertips. So Penguins are out in San Jose. They play on Sunday. So go Pens.
Go Pens. And I tell you what, speaking of that, My question, and we probably need to get our friend Fred Gordy on, is I wonder how much cyber hacking goes on in professional baseball. I mean, you know, they've been stealing signs for years, right? I mean, there's been conjecture, rumors about that, but are they hacking into, Kenny? Are they hacking into databases and finding out, you know, secret stats and stuff like that? I don't know, but I tell you what, we did have our first post. I think it was with our man Fred Gordy, wasn't it?
We sure did. We are very appreciative to the security experts that provide us the content that really and truly make an impact and really and truly mean something. It has substance. In other words, the first post, the cybersecurity expert Fred Gordy waves the cybersecurity caution flag. He's saying, wake up, wake up. So the census device search engine is picking up exposed Niagara 4 stations, and we really and truly need to adhere to what Fred says his policy. So what he does is, first he calls for the widest dissemination of this post, and for all the responsible parties at every level to take immediate action to eliminate their exposure and safeguard their buildings against imminent attack. So Fred Gordy says, hey, look, I did a cursory search using census device search engine of building control systems. The first systems to pop up were Niagara 4 systems. As most of us know, Niagara 4 was released after the first year to integrate a community at large. The discussion of cybersecurity for control systems has been going on for 4 years, so it's still amazing to Fred and all of us that the control system devices are still being put directly on the web. The Niagara 4 systems would have to be installed in the last 4 months. So this means that we have systems integrators out there that are still oblivious. They're still going through the approach of security through through obscurity and anonymity, and it's just not happening. So he has proof positive of the screenshots. They're just the first page. He didn't count the Niagara 4 systems at large, but he was finding them 5 pages into the 357 pages listed. So please visit that post on Control Trends.
Well, yeah, it's pretty cool. And so Census is the website, I'm guessing, Kenny, CENSYS. I've sort of got it up on the screen. I'm seeing if I can get this. I might not have enough bandwidth to get this search going. Mm-hmm. But check it out. And, of course, it does make sense that Niagara would be the number one building automation system out there because guess what? Niagara is the number one building automation control system on the planet. So
the thing, Eric, is that, it's not Niagara's fault. It's not Tritium's fault. This is in the hands of the systems integrators now. This is in the hands of the users. And you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it, So the guys and women responsible that expose these things to the internet are the ones that we need to chastise here.
All right. Consider yourself chastised out there and please change the...
Was that a poor choice of words? I
don't know. We might have just lost half of our audience, but no, I think the people that listen to Control Talk.
I think the guys that listen to our show are hip, and they know what's happening, and they're the ones that put the comments in saying, that they find other things and this and that and the other, and they share. Yeah. I don't know who Fred found, and I wouldn't be silly enough to say it if I did know, but it's a problem, and please listen to these warnings and listen to Fred's advice. And Fred is a professional consultant for intelligent buildings. I mean, these guys provide a service. So if there's a user out there and he wants to know where he's at, they let you take a survey. And after the survey, they let you decide what level of support you need. They've got a good, better, best. And,
right. And and Fred is a cyber cop, baby. He is our guy. He is our John Wayne. He is our paladin. Have gun, will travel, right? He is, but you got to listen to him. I mean, can you imagine what would have happened if John Wayne said, "Let's go, pilgrims," and nobody went? He's our Clint Eastwood, So we got to listen. We got to listen to Fred. So and can't wait to get Fred back on the show. And intelligent buildings, like you say, Kenny, they have the three, the cool little survey thing you can check out and get up to speed.
Well, the thing is that Fred has a passion. A few other guys in our industry. We just came across an Optigo company, and we know Mark Peacock is an evangelist for cybersecurity. But Fred has always been diligent. He's always been giving away information, giving away checklists, giving away very, very granular information to help people deal with this, because in his opinion, there's an Armageddon coming. The cyber Armageddon is looming around all these great portals.
Cybergeddon?
Yeah. Hey, write that down. Cybergeddon. You heard it first here. Eric Stromquist on Control Trend, Cybergeddon.
Well, I tell you what, and hopefully Fred will be at Realcomm IBCon with us because we'll catch up with him if we can. And Fred's been very gracious with Control Trends and with the show. So it's a great post. Be sure to check it out. Definitely worth a read.
All right, Eric. Well, next up we had Cisco. Cisco's digital ceiling will change the way you do smart buildings. And we've got an interesting presentation because there's a great video post you put up, and it has about it might meet your new BS partner. I mean, Cisco, of course, is in the thick of things. You know, they are the router networking kings of the world, and you know, Cisco bought Richard Zeta and kind of took them apart and put the physical components into the cloud. So they looked at the world from a different perspective. You know, they own the network and they've got a place there. So that now they're actually looking at how you know, the evolution of smart, intelligent, connected buildings is going to run. And their concept is that we might see this digital ceiling where you have the PoE, the Cat6, providing both the data connection for the smart devices and also the power, which would you know, power up the devices. Like we already have PoE for cameras and some other components, but as Ken St. Clair brought up to us, you know, that there's no magic stick there. You still got to power up, you know, the lights. You know, it's not magic, and you're never going to power up the actual components. You still need you know, 24 volts and or 120 volts or 277 or whatever you got, because they change it. Like I think our friends Blue Ridge Technologies got some really great lighting solutions, and the thing about that is all they've got the low voltage side and the control side, but. We'll let Ken tell us about the DC lighting concept in the future, or next, probably when Ken comes on to the show shortly.
Well, I tell you what, buddy, I got him queued up, waiting. What do you say we just bring him on right now?
That's a great segue.
All right, Ken Smyers, tell us about our guest today.
Love to, Eric. Our guest today is the one and only owner and editor of Automated Buildings, the amazing flair of Ken St. Clair. We have Ken St. Clair live with us. Ken, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Ken.
Thank you very much, guys. Pleased to be here.
Hey, man, you know, before we get started, it's kind of cool because we knew controls guys have multi-talents, many talents, but seems like one of our own is going to be writing a book here pretty soon. Can you sort of give us a little heads up on what's going on with one of our friends who's putting a book out?
Yes, our contributing editor, Jim Sinopoli, has got a book coming online July, and we're excited. Jim's has quite a stable of books, and he takes on the task of being an industry educator. Of course, he speaks with me at AHR Expo. It's just got a great perspective on that, and he's taken a lot of his thoughts and put them all in a new book.
Very awesome. Cool. Yeah. We know the title of it yet?
I knew you were going to ask me that. It's featured in our new products. So I'll click on my new products, and there it is. It's called Advanced Technology for Smart Buildings.
Love it, nice. Love it. So we got Jim Sinopoli, one of the greats. And I tell you what, I've seen Jim on the Wall Street shows and stuff like that. He gets quoted quite a bit. So this book's going to be fantastic. And of course, I guess we have another writer in our midst in George Thomas. So he came out with a great book on BACnet networks, George Thomas Contemporary Controls. So we got some talented people in our industry, Ken.
Right. And of course, Jack McGowan as well has a nest of books, and we have those featured on our site as well. So yes, we have quite a few. Actually, almost every one of my contributing editors has written a book, which is kind of an interesting trend.
Very cool. Well, Kenny Smyers and I are thinking about writing a book too, but taking a little bit different track. Well, we were kind of going to do like the, I don't know, like a trashy sort of controls.
Jack Kerouac style,
like that. So it'd be total fiction based in truth. So
I think by definition, you've got to make a movie, not a book.
I think you might be right about that, buddy. But hey, speaking of great writers, the June issue of Automated Buildings is out, automatedbuildings.com. Ken, tell us a bit about the theme this month.
Well, it's we took over looking at different measured variables, health, wellness, productivity, and this kind of came to be quite obvious after returning from Light Fair and returning from CABA, that there's a whole shift in the industry to look harder at the at the 300 part of the 300 rule, which of course is $3 a square foot for utilities and 30 for the rent, and 300 for those valuable people per square foot in the building. And of course, if we start leveraging off of that, there's a lot more we can do as an industry. So I was kind of excited by that. And when I actually put the issue together, I was amazingly surprised at how much resource there was actually around to document some of this. I got to admit, I didn't realize there was that much information to help us justify our presence in the $300 a square foot arena of people productivity.
It sure is. And Ken, I think one of the most significant things that came out in this June edition was you had some collateral contributing editors and articles, particularly the $1 trillion opportunity by Brad White of SES Consulting, that this is no longer hocus pocus, that we can actually have demonstrable metrics that can say productivity is definitely a reward. If you take this stuff seriously and you put IoT contextualization in there, it does lead to that 5% of that $300 savings variable. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was really pleased with that too. And as I mentioned, I was really pleased with you guys remixing the article and featuring its homegrown video. It's a real grassroots kind of movement, but it shows you what's happening in the field and the kind of instruction he's giving to his folks and how they're shifting their thinking. There's a lot of exciting aspects about us entering into this new world and trying to capitalize on the productivity piece, the $300 a square foot part of the buildings. As I assembled this month's issue, I was amazed at how much information we actually found out about that was available to get us started into coming up with justification. But the other thing that excites me even more, as we put more and more of these systems in, we're going to get more and more data that we can use, and that's going to help us a lot. I think it'll focus us on productivity and satisfaction and wellness.
You know, Ken, I think you're right on it, and congratulations to Brad White, young gun Brad White. And, you know, as we were sort of joking last week on the show, Ken, what's the difference between young guns and Brad White's a young gun, one of the younger people in the industry, Rob Allen's a young gun, one of the younger people in the industry. What's the difference between young guns and us, Ken?
About 40 years.
Well,
Sorry, young guns or what?
Here's one of the differences. We do this show every week, and you come on once a month, and Brad White and Rob Allen, we're going to do a Young Gun show, and we have yet to see episode 1. So I'm jacking Rob up about that. Maybe you can put a word into to Brad, because we got to get that going on. But I think Brad's right on it. I mean, that $300 piece really is the piece that we need to focus on. If you're just trying to sell a system based on energy savings now, especially with energy costs being what they are now, you're probably not gonna win. It seems like it's the sort of the gray areas, like brand recognition for having an Energy Star building. You can charge more per square foot for that. You can also have less tenant turnover. But this productivity piece is the huge piece, because a 1% increase in productivity pretty much obfuscates all the energy savings you're going to get, at least in today's market. So, you know, there's that concept, Ken, and I think I might have heard it from you. There, or a guy in California, there's a concept of the well building. I think you picked up on this. And this particular well building, everything from the water is purified water to the air is the best air you can breathe to the snacks and the vending machines are all healthy. So I think we're going to see more of the whole concept of a well-being as well as focus on the productivity.
Yeah, great. On that, I'm looking at catching up with these folks from Australia down at IBCon, and they put me on to, they're saying there's a lot of activity in Australia now with this rating the buildings for wellness. And wow, it's going way beyond anything I imagined. We're talking about almost traceable diseases and all kinds of stress factors and all kinds of things. So that is a real neat concept. And actually, going along with your young gun, Leon Wolfell, I guess it is. He's the Young Achiever Award of the biannual ARBS Award in Australia. So there you go. You got your young guns, and I had my young energy, and these are the young achievers. But the pattern is clearly set that us fossils are finally in a position to ride off into the sunset, and I'm feeling real good about the young guns that are coming to protect our industry.
We got some good ones coming, Ken, and another trend that you sort of picked up on. You turned us on to Dr. Igor Mezic with Echorhythm, and one of the themes you have, and one of the articles in this month's issue is machine learning versus artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence seems like that's the next big wave coming in, and speak a little bit about that vis-a-vis our smart buildings and our well-built buildings. How do you see artificial intelligence sort of coming into the picture?
I think in the article on this month's issue, Machine Learning and HVAC Controls by Michael Donnellan at CompuTrolls is a great one. And I think one of the best parts of it is he kind of pushes away from that whole artificial intelligence concept and says, really what this is machine learning. And that's more palatable. And I think it's easier for us to understand. And I think once we get our minds around it, again, back to the young gun theme, when I first met Mike Donnellan with CompuTrolls, it was in the early days of CompuTrolls, and he was the young gun at CompuTrolls, and he was doing some very interesting web stuff. He was early to web, and they did some more sort of amazing things, and I found them quite intriguing in their early days. So yes, it's great to see him. I don't know if he considers himself a young gun still, but he certainly is changing the industry.
Well, I think the cool thing about it, too, and I think we're going to see more and more of it, Ken Sinclair. So, again, applaud you for sort of being out front again with this and talking to me, Igor Mezic. I mean, we've got the rules-based analytics now where you basically have to write the rules. But my understanding of it, which makes this kind of cool, is that you really don't have to necessarily have the variables down. You can put the variables in, a bunch of different variables, and this artificial self-learning algorithms will sort of find the relationships that maybe, you wouldn't even consider. So I'm excited about that primarily, Ken, because as I get older, I'm hoping to get one of those artificial intelligent chips and put it in my brain.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well,
actually, in that a while back, Brad wrote an article, In Search of a Brain, which was In Search of a Brain for Buildings, I believe was the complete title. And I think in that one, he points out, too, is that this big data it's so overwhelming that if we don't move to machine learning, we don't move to basically putting it into rule-based, the analytics has to be done by machines. No present human is going to be able to, or is even going to have the appetite to kind of move through all that big data. So basically writing bots that toggle through this data to pull it out is the future. And we see that all our young guns are coming to that conclusion. They've come up in that world and they're saying, why haven't you guys done this before? Why is it taking so long? And the answer is because you're not here, but you're here now.
Sure. Well, Ken, we had a recent post where we talked about Cisco's digital ceiling, and you had talked to us last month. Your edition, we had come back from CABA, and you had the DC ceiling. Tell us about your thoughts on that, and which one you think will prevail in the long term.
Yeah, prevail is probably a pretty interesting word. I actually think they both will live. And I think you'll see that the digital ceiling will tend towards the sustainable off-grid building, and the digital ceiling is more of a replacement for what we're doing now in the traditional building. That being said, we're looking at some pilot projects, which I'm really excited about, to try and see how effectively this can be used in a retrofit environment. The idea that it basically just involves replacing the ceiling is kind of exciting. The different concept in it is that once you have a 24-volt grid in the ceiling, you can actually not only transmit power, but you can add power to the grid, and it becomes your communication grid as well. So it's
well, Ken, I apologize for asking such a difficult. I didn't mean to make that a difficult question. I just meant more about the technology because you explained it so well. So I get the part now. So once you have DC in the buildings, you start having the smart grid, the microgrid. So we're generating DC voltage instead of AC and converting it back to DC. I think that's a fabulous concept, and you explained that well. But I didn't mean to say which one would prevail, like in an economic sense, but which one made more sense in the business, in our day-to-day business.
Vis-a-vis building automation controls, I would think, right?
Right.
Probably the DC ceiling is of the greatest threat to our industry, our traditional industry. The reason being that it'll proliferate cell phone thinking and cell phone cameras and cell phone proximity detectors and anything that gets developed in that area, because it's all fed with DC. It'll also proliferate wider use of flat screens and like lay-in flat screens for providing artificial environments within a space. It's quite susceptible to it scales well. You can actually put in a small grid. You can do a few thousand feet in a building and have it sustainable and off grid by adding photovoltaics and adding like a Tesla battery. I think it starts the hybrid building, and I think that's how the transition will occur. Just across my desk was basically a coverage of the most energy and connected buildings in the world, and every one of them was a new building. Well, actually, the most energy efficient connected building would be a retrofit of an existing building, and that would be in the big thing that all of these existing buildings have is location. And there's another transition that's starting to evolve as well, which is the buildings have to be used for more than what we're using them for now. And this all comes from moving into the $300 square foot people productivity, happiness, wellness bit. As the millenniums move into the building, they're quite a different creature than the folks that were happy to live in cube farms. And they basically are going to probably live in one area, and when they come to work, it's going to be more like a hoteling experience. And they probably would be real happy if that old existing building not only supplied all of their technical needs and kept them happy and well, but also even gave them a place to crash at night in the inner core of a large city. So there's a real big social transition there.
I like the social transition part. I mean, I think we see that a lot at places like, if it's to be believed, like at Google and some of these, high tech companies where they got the pool tables, they got the environment is critical, right? That's part of the whole package. So this is going to be some fascinating stuff, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Like I say, it's never been a better time to be in the news business. I'm not sure I'd want to still be a consultant trying to make sense of all of this, or it's got to be even tough times for the integrators, systems integrators. You can imagine you're going to a meeting and the whole platform is moving. Like last year, you knew exactly. Excuse me. Sorry. Last year, you knew exactly what you were selling. This year, you're probably not so sure.
Well, do you foresee like the whole way, because for so many years it's been, an owner hires an architect that hires an engineer that designs the mechanical and the controls, goes out to a GC. The GC then hires a mechanical contractor who hires a control contractor or does it themselves. But everything is in very specific sections. But it seems like this whole concept of things like the digital ceiling could change all of that. What do you think?
Very, very much so. And I guess the other thing is productivity, wellness, and all those new measured variables are going to drive the process. And I think new consultants will arrive that are good at that. And we're already starting to see that if you've been successful at designing a Google campus or a Amazon campus, you're very valuable. And a lot of the companies want to say, how did you do that? And how can we change our company to do that? So I think a lot of these systems will get troweled out, whether they economically make sense or not. They'll do them from a connectivity, well-being point of view. The other big excitement about both these ceiling systems is the ability to rapidly change them and to change the space. I think that's another evolving trend. Is we used to build stuff and we used to, rivet it to the floors, and we used to put in large conduits, and everything now needs to be flexible. It needs to be wireless. And that's actually one of my concerns about the digital ceiling PoE thing, is it's still based on wire. It seems to me that the communication should be wireless, and that the powering of the devices is DC. The other thing, of course, is we're having a huge agreement that the world has shifted to DC. So Edison wins. There's no doubt about that. In anybody's equation today, Edison wins.
Very, very cool. Kenny, you have any other questions for Ken?
No, I just, again, it's fun, Ken, because I was just going through all your stuff, and I saw Jim Sinopoli's DC, where he says about Edison, he had the record for the most inventions. And I just saw the CABA, the occupant health outcomes. Like this thing with the metrics, I think is big. We hit on it, but I wish I'd had this up first, because it says with health that better lighting leads to less headaches, eye strain, skin irritation, asthma, depression, stress. The occupant well-being and perception of outcome is perceived physical health, psychological health, productivity, perceived office environment improvements, organizational culture improves. But here's the real critical thing about productivity was absenteeism, presenteeism, staff turnover and retention, revenue, medical costs. That's some big metric pluses on our side to sell this concept. So I thought that was awesome. But
I think it is, Kenny. And just real quick, how long is it going to take guys like Eugene Mazzo at DG Logic, or Scott? Scott mentioned Jason Briggs or Alper, to develop a widget. Just like you got the Energy Star widget that tells you where you rate on the Energy Star thing, where you're going to have the wellness widget, right?
Awesome.
Where you take all these variables in, and our building is weller than your building.
Healthier, yeah.
The other one that excites me is we're actually, as I'm talking about having new measured variables, we actually now have new controlled variables. And the biggest one of those is the color of light.
Yeah.
Right. Because that is very much a personal preference. So I would think that the comfy of the color of light is going to be as significant as the comfy temperature algorithm and interaction.
Maybe even more so, Kim, because the studies on the light the different, how light affects us is probably the hugest variable, maybe even more so than temperature, but it's cool stuff. But I tell you what, where do you find out the answers to these questions? Well, first up, automatedbuildings.com. The June issue's out. We're talking with Ken Sinclair, the owner or publisher of Automated Buildings. And then another place you can go is where Ken and I and Ken Sinclair are going to be next at the end of the month, which is the Realcom IBCon show out in San Jose. Totally pumped up about that, Ken. I know one of the featured speakers is one of the editors of Wired Magazine, Cade Metz, and he's going to be talking about artificial intelligence and how that works. So who knows? Maybe by the time July comes along, I'll have that embedded chip in my brain and be rocking and rolling. But are you doing any talks out there or monitoring any panels, Ken?
No, I'm had some input in the Systems Integrator Summit, but it's kind of taken a little different. It's not so much of the interactive moderation, more formal speeches and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. I see you and I are up for. We're fighting it out tooth and nail for the Digital Impact Award.
Put your dukes up, Ken. Come on, put them up on screen.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
go.
right.
Come on.
Find out who's the zero and who's the one.
Yeah. Well, what an honor that is. I guess it's in honor of Julie Devine, who passed away earlier in the year, and I think more so than anything, Ken, I think being connected to her and what a great impact she had on the industry. I know how much that affected Jim and Howard and Lisa and really the whole industry. She was truly one of the really wonderful people in our industry. So just to be associated with her is quite an honor.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the event. I'm not sure if you saw the clip that with the IBCon logo on the side of the transit car or the light rail transit car, but one car had IBCon on it and the other one had Realcom on it. That was pretty impressive promotion to.
Yeah, it was great. Jim Young told us, Ken, that the city of San Jose really embraced, and Silicon Valley really embraced having this conference there and offered to do those things. And of course, as you know, they've got some fantastic tours of some of the smartest facilities on the planet. So it's going to be a great show. It's not too late to get there. Especially if you get to rub elbows with people like Ken Sinclair. And of course, Kenny is moderating this session, Ken. So you and I'll have to go and film him and harass his group. What do you say? He's got Kevin Fasinelli and the folks from Comfy, Lindsay Baker, and a couple other really...
Omnicon. Not Omnicon, I'm sorry. You caught me off guard there, but...
It's a great crew, a great crew. And then we just got connected with a company called Optigo. I think they're, right. What a great group of folks they are, Ken. I know you've been onto them for a while, but we had a chance to interview and talk with them, and what a great group of folks they are. Very innovative sort of products they've come out with.
Actually, not much longer than you. I think they wrote an article for us. We're about a month ahead of you, which is kind of embarrassing because, of course, they're in Vancouver, and I actually quite often have to go to all these conventions around the world to meet people from Vancouver. They seem to do a pretty good job of staying underground at Pearson, as we all do.
Well, I tell you what, when I write the book, my tell-all book about the building automation controls industries and have to go in hiding, I'm coming to Vancouver, buddy, where you can hide me out.
Okay, good stuff.
Hey, guys, I got to butt in here because the track's called Next Gen Solution Showcase. It's the HVAC and connected integrated buildings keeping pace with change. And the panel is incredible. You have Lindsay Baker from Building Robotics, Matt Eggers from Yardi, Kevin Fasinelli from Daikin Applied, and Gary Court from Iconics. So
I'll tell you what, the panel is only as good as the moderator, and the moderator is
moderator,
the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only. Say it with me, Ken Sinclair. Kenny Smyers. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What day and time, Ken?
Before we lose this, Ken, I just want to say, again, thank you very much for the fabulous presentation you do every month. That Automated Buildings collection that you put together, month in, month out, year in, year out, is probably the greatest source of information, current information, trended information in our business, and I hope I see you're growing. You're getting more and more people are signing up, but I don't think there's a more hip place on the internet for our industry. So thanks. Please keep it up.
Keep it up, Ken. Appreciate it. All right, Ken, thanks for taking a few minutes to talk with us.
Do us part.
Pardon? Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. There's Ken Sinclair, owner, editor of Building Automations. There you go. There's Ken Sinclair, owner, editor of AutomatedBuildings.com. The June issue's on the street. Be sure to check it out. Ken, thanks so much, buddy.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Ken. Bye.
All right, man. Well, it's good stuff from Ken Sinclair, and nice clarity on that whole digital ceiling thing. We'll keep tracking that, Ken, because I think that's going to be, a possible game changer there. And we'll get to see those folks. I think Cisco will be out at Rocom Ibicon as well, so maybe we'll get a chance to interview them and talk a little bit about the digital ceiling.
Let me ask you a question real quick. The Westinghouse Edison wars. I mean, how fabulous was that? And those guys were both two really incredible industrialists, and really brought us into this next level of technology and into the 20th century, and all the great contests they had with the Niagara Falls generation plant, whatever. But isn't it ironic, that Edison claimed DC was a superior supply, and now you have this microgrid concept where we're taking AC out here and generating gigantic amounts of voltage, and then have to take it to the building and break it down to DC because everything inside the building runs on DC. So imagine that. Wouldn't that be something that they could come back out?
It's come full
he's
circle.
In his grave. Yeah.
Edison probably wouldn't roll over in his grave. He'd probably just jump out of it and jump up and down, right? So I think
he was a mean cuss.
Well, he was. Well, I tell you what, it is as vicious as those wars were between Westinghouse and Edison. I mean, what about between Edison and Tesla? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just brutal stuff. I mean, that was really old school business, right? I mean, I wonder what Edison's definition of co-competition would have been.
Co-opetition. There is no such thing. It's all mine.
Yeah, it's all mine. Yeah, it's mine.
Get out of my way.
Mine. But we'll cooperate as long as it's mine, right?
I tell you what, it's a small kind of connected world where you read one thing, it leads to another. You read this and you read something. So I was reading something about Edison and how he actually was the guy that put Pinkerton to work, because he had he created video filming, and the people that worked for him left and started making movies in New Jersey, and Edison hired Pinkerton to go get him and get those devices back because they had, they were violating his copyright. Well, these people got so sick and tired of it because the Pinkerton were so good at it, and they were so brutal. They went all the way out to Hollywood, and that was to escape the scrutiny of Edison and Pinkerton. Well, they sold a couple of these, earlier models and went out to California and basically hid out there for a while. And by the time it all happened, it was just too much time and too much distance.
So you're saying if there was not an Edison, there might not have been a Hollywood.
True.
How about that? That's fascinating stuff, Kenny Smyers. You never cease to amaze me with that big brain of yours.
It's not a big brain. I'll tell you, I do a lot of driving and I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
I hear
and
you,
about 50 to 70% of it's accurate, but hey, the rest of it's just too much fun not to talk about, right?
I hear you, brother. I hear you. All right, well, buddy, let's just pretend like we're doing Ken's calendar. What do we have up next?
Oh, you keep digging me on the Ken's calendar, Eric. I'm sorry. I had a crazy busy week, and I apologize because next week I'm going to have the Ken's calendar for you. I promise.
What?
All right. Well, what are we doing next week? We might be out in California ourselves.
I think we are going to be. We're going to be hiding from Edison out there, buddy.
Pinkerton.
Well, yeah. Pinkerton, too.
Well, the next one, next post is just getting back to basics here. And this is training. This is 30 minutes with LinkSpring's webinar series, Data and Analytics by LinkSpring and Sky Foundry. That's some potent ingredients there for the professional people in analytics and graphics and data presentation. We have John Petsy joining up with the astute personnel from LinkSpring to give us an opportunity to look at data analytics and the way data analytics is changing, the way companies in every industry, the way they do business and the way they manage business. And it's changing ours. Our HVAC, BAS industry is changing because of our new found actionable intelligence coming out of data.
Well, I tell you what, we're talking with Ken Sinclair a little bit about artificial intelligence, and you and I have talked about it with Igor Mezic and some of these guys. I think all we got to do is we just got to maybe hook some sort of a device up to John Petsy's brain and maybe just do a data dump from his brain to a chip. Could you imagine?
Vulcan, yeah, I'd like that.
Vulcan mind melt, right? But
Yeah.
John Petsy, one of the smartest guys in our industry. And, of course, you team him up with LinkSpring, Mark Peacock, and that company, and good things are going to happen.
You sure are. And, of course, we've got the links to both LinkSpring and Sky Foundry, and Sky Foundry's on the move. The more I hear about how hard they're working and some of the good things they've been doing, I think they recently hit another incredible milestone as far as the number of buildings and this amount of cubic feet that they have under Sky Foundry and Sky Sparking. You know that they're now I don't know what it is, 10 million square feet or something incredible. I don't know what that means in terms of how many buildings, but they've just had amazing success, and it's just they're just turning the bend, they say.
Well, and I tell you what, I got to ask you a question, Kenny. I've never asked John Petsy this, but those of us in the industry know that, you know, John's a multi-talented guy. Among other things, he's a great musician and a great drummer. And so, you know, I kind of got, where did he come up with the term sparks? And it makes me wonder if he was not maybe a Stevie Winwood fan. Didn't he have that song, The Spark of High Heel Boys or something like that?
No Spark of High Heel Boys.
I wonder if it came from that, man. You used to wear high heels back in the day, right? When you were wearing the green bell bottoms and going to Studio 54.
Platforms, man, platforms. Give
right.
me a break.
All right.
High heel shoes. Hey, I'll tell you what, I think the whole thing with Sky Foundry, I actually looked into it because the term foundry is incredible because you know what that is. You know, it's where superheat and taking things down to their core, you know, the raw materials and the raw, you know, chemical and elements. The concept of Sky Foundry to me is no accident. I think that's a very well conceived name. And
absolutely,
you know,
that's got to be one of the coolest names in our industry, don't you think?
Sure.
Sky Foundry.
Sky Foundry.
Who do you work for? Sky Foundry.
Who's coming? Who's coming? It's like you know, like never mind, because that would be a negative connotation. We don't want to go that way. But
let's do, Kenny. What were you going to do? I'm usually the one with the negative connotations. Where were you going to go with this? I know our audience would like to hear you go negative at least once.
Well, no, you know the Overlord type of thing. Remember, you know, Childhood's End by what's his name? He wrote a great book where the end of the world comes. What was why human beings were created, and you know whatever. And of course, it's not a religious; it's a science fiction thing. So. Don't want to get in trouble with anybody, pick a fight, but it was wasn't Heinlein, it was the other guy, Asimov. No.
What, if I was single again, I'd tell women that I work for Sky Foundry. I said, what do you do? I work for Sky Foundry.
It's like you know, it's like NASA, it's like Star Trek. It's got one of those.
That's cooler than all that, man. And then I would just go, hey, you know, what do you do there? I make sparks. Well, how does that work? Well, let me show you. Right? I mean, it's a good thing I'm not single anymore, but. Good stuff there, buddy. Well, listen, you know, one of the really, really cool things that this sort of happened with us now is really cool people are sort of reaching out to us, right? And you and I received a message from a gentleman from a company called Optigo. And, dude, let's talk a little bit about that post because that was just some cool stuff.
Well, you're right. It's the way our industry works is you learn a lot of it through, you know, going to official channels and you have relationships with factories and then you go to the meetings and you go to things like RealCom and you go to things like Niagara Summit and you just realize how many overlapping circles there are in the world of HVAC and building automations and how like we used to have separate silos where IoT was over here and lighting was over here and webs security for access controls started to bring all these things in. So swipe at the door at the access control, the reader turns into a backnet point that goes onto the network that enables the lighting in the hallway, enables you know the elevator to the fourth floor and turns on the occupied set points and whatever. We met this guy who has taught us, who's enlightened us that the world is even getting more concise and getting more integrated and more connected or whatever. So these guys basically are all about bringing security and visibility into the IoT smart building space. And they've got some really great products, but you had to jump on me because you told me, Ken, you got to see this stuff. We know about Wireshark. We know how if you have trouble on your network, you can download and you can use the different levels of services at Wireshark, and it does all the protocols. With BACnet in particular, And we've had some great BACnet solutions and some, from connected, for contemporary controls on when you have problems with your network. I mean, nothing's more frustrating than not knowing why you have a problem or it's an intermittent problem. Well, this Optico thing now has taken a lot of the stuff. They've taken that familiarity people might have with Wireshark and have expanded it. It reminds me like one of those analog signal, that increases it. So instead of 0 to 10, you make it 0 to 20. So you see more, you have greater range, you have greater visibility. Well, they do that with the networks, and they provide solutions that we're just touching, the first phase of it.
Well, Kenny, I brought up a diagram from this, and you did a great job of explaining it. But essentially, if you've used Wireshark before, you know that you're just getting a heap of data. And if you know what you're looking for, you can sift through it and you can troubleshoot the network. So what Ping and his team did was they're taking that data from Wireshark. It comes into their dashboard, for lack of a better term. And if you look at the screen, you can see you got a big red dot there that's saying 21%. And that dot will actually change color. So if you're red 21%, it's telling you that 21% of your BACnet network is working properly. You can sort of go on to the right side there. You'll see you got the big red X's and stuff like that. That lets you know specifically what's not communicating. Now, that red ball will turn to a yellow ball if it's kind of a warning type thing, or a green ball, right? If your network's performing properly. So what this allows you to do is to very easily go in and right off the bat determine whether your network's green, all good, yellow, maybe trending in the wrong direction, or red, I got some problems. And then it allows you to sort of go in and see specifically, what's not communicating, what's not showing up. So I think it's just a brilliant tool. And I think Optico comes from the IoT side of things. I think it's a great example, Kenny, of how they are sort of coming in and using some technologies that we're maybe using in other industries and bringing them into our industry. And of course, the other thing they've got, Kenny, is they've got just a really cool network, if you will, a way of connecting the networks. Mm-hmm. And one of the cool things with that, with the Optico Connect, is it can begin to monitor things like anomalies in the network, which is sort of what they're doing with Wireshark as well. But in this particular case, let's get back to one of our key things, which is cybersecurity. So it can detect, if I'm understanding what Ping's saying, it can detect if you got unusual people trying to get into your network or whatever and give you an alert. So I think these guys are definitely on the move, Kenny. Cool products. I want to thank them so much for Monica and Ping for reaching out to us. Hopefully we can get them on the show soon. And I know they're going to be at Realcomm IBACon. So our listeners that are going to be at Realcomm IBACon, definitely go by and check out. They're going to do some demonstrations and have a booth there. So be sure to check them out.
Well, Eric, and you're so right. But the post you put up there was great. The video really is important. I recommend that everybody in the Control Trends community take a look at the video, because it's only like a minute and 10 seconds long. But you get the Vice President of Product Management, Donald Ronald, goes through visual BACnet, and that's really cool. And we're talking again, it's more than just building automation systems. They also do CCTV, access control, and smart metering. But the thing that video does is it starts out modularly. Yeah,
that's pretty good with that, Kenny. That's a tough one to try to say that 4 times real fast.
But so it starts out small, get big. I mean, they're talking about global. They can go from one building, just one system, one network, to 10 buildings, 10 buildings in 10 cities, 10 buildings in 10 cities in 10 countries. So it's really cool. And so they do thousands of smart devices and complex networks that present, and so they also do cybersecurity concerns. And we'll be talking more about these guys in the very near future, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, Kenny. Absolutely. Okay. Well, cool. What do we have up next there, Mr. Big Dog?
Well, I'll tell you, we're moving along, and we had some very cool stuff. You talk about cool stuff. These guys from Canada. Oh, there. Sorry about that. The guys from Montreal, Luis Melgares and Biagio De Lorenzio from Neptronic, we got a chance to really hang out with them at the summit. And the nice thing about these guys is how friendly and and how cordial they are, but they're very, very smart guys. They make it look so easy. They take technology and they present it. It's such a neat fashion that I like selling their product because I understand it. I don't have to go through any kind of startup phase, and you don't have to buy any software. You just get Neptronics products, and they make total sense as soon as you see them. So they have a new product called the TUCB. It's a flexible universal wall mount controller with a built-in temperature sensor and a scheduler. It's designed for the simple and accurate control of a heat pump or other heating and cooling equipment. Its field configurable algorithms enable versatile implementation of the required control sequences. What's more impressive is the new TRLG24, and that is the onboard humidity and CO2 sensor. So this gives you an incredible zone controller that I think is going to be very successful, and it's got a really neat phone app. So I mean, these guys are really putting it together. So they're going to be offering free samples through Control Trends. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that whole concept? Because I think
it is a great concept. So sort of getting back, Kenny, again to the whole notion of Neptronics and sort of where these guys sort of fit in the industry. I think we're one of the best kept secrets. You and I went and visited them in Montreal. To realize what these guys have done, they do very innovative things with equipment. I think their owner told us they were the first person to develop using a control ball valve in our industry. But they're just super good people, very humble. They work hard, they play hard. If you go up there, I'll warn you right now, you're going to be blown away by the technology, but you're probably going to be more blown away by how well they entertain you. So again, the products are very easy to use. They're engineered sort of, the systems integrators can use them because they're very, very price competitive. But by the same token, you don't have to be a systems integrator to use this particular thermostat that they're talking about. It's you can program it from the front panel or use a computer. They got a great VAV controller that goes with it. The fact that they've got the onboard CO2 sensor now is a really cool piece. So the engineering is really, really clever. The quality is very good, and then on top of that, through Control Trends, they're going to offer free samples. Now, we'll have this up probably next week. We'll probably have a link to this. But I think this is very, very innovative that they're going to do that. And then I think they're also going to have some sort of a competition where you put the sample in and shoot a video of it and submit the video to Control Trends. We'll post them, and the best video will probably get a really cool prize. I mean, like a really good prize. And we might even acknowledge them at the Control Trends Awards. So I love the fact that not only do these guys have great products, not only are they great people, not only do they do great support, but they're also innovative in how they go to market. So more to come on this, Kenny.
It really is. They're a lot of fun, but like I say, it's all at the end of the day, it's about business, and it's about having the right arrows, in the quiver, so that you can pull out the right shot. And I think some of the great innovations we've seen over time here has been like the Viconics thermostat. How they had that a la carte style where if you didn't need the economizer, you didn't need the scheduler, you didn't have to have it, and therefore you save that additional cost. Well, that's what Neptronics is all about. They have a hands-on feeling of how you need to be successful in the commercial space and bid successfully, and that is to have products that don't give you any more than you need, but absolutely meet the specification or set the specification. So they do a great job there. And like you said, they had some innovations there where they had the patents on the direct coupled actuator on top of the ball valve. They had the capacitance, so that you had the electronic failsafe. These guys are pretty smart, and they really enjoy what they do. So they're fun to work with, and like you say, they work hard and then they play hard.
No, they really do. And of course, Luis, started in the contracting business. So again, it got like a guy like Bill Duckelberger from Blue Ridge Technologies. I mean, there's a difference when a guy actually has worked in the industry. So Luis really knows what you're talking about. Kind of like Larry Andreanis with Honeywell too. Is another one of those guys. So it's good stuff. So definitely stay tuned. We will be having a form on Control Trends where you'll be able to get your free samples. And I think it's going to be a big thing. And then, and of course, Neptronics is a platinum sponsor of the Control Trends Awards too. So we really appreciate those guys as well. So Kenny, the final post, another very innovative company. We have our folks from Functional Devices. Tell us a bit about your interview at Realcomm, Ibicom. I mean, at Neptron. Tell us about your interview.
The functional devices. Okay.
With functional devices at the summit.
All right. Well, you got Jim Huey, Houston, and then you have the some really cool things going on with Maggie Talbert, and then David Mackey. I mean, they've got some great people there. But functional devices is one of those silent but steady movers of technology and making the integration world feasible. In other words, they've got, their products are divided up into three primary categories. They have building automation systems, lighting controls, energy savings devices. And if you go into them, you will see a very formidable product line that, so many people aren't even aware that they're using, functional devices and have been for many, many years. And it's interesting to see that all the major manufacturers in their, when you do their project submittals and when you do the takeoff tools, it's a default to the RIB UNC relay. It's a default to the RIB MU1S, so that they've already been accepted as the the people that provides the current sensors. They've got whatever. But this particular post was about some of the new innovations in the panel. Functional devices is no slouch. I mean, they understand, the steel certifications, Buy American, and you have those requirements. So they came up with the, for the transformers that if you have to meet that spec, they've got it. And they're very proud of their panels. They have one of the most again, the panels are to fit your project, not your project to fit their panels. So they give you option after option. And with power supplies, they've really looked at it from a contractor perspective. So, instead of buying like 5 different pieces and then put them together, they give you the opportunity to get the prepackaged panels. And it's just a very good job. And again, like some of the other great small manufacturers in America, you got the functional devices, you got the, ACI, they're really good at what they do, and we'll be talking about more about the functional devices because they've got some new products coming out.
Yeah, they really do, Ken. And speaking of that, panels, our friend Hepta System, Ted Hauk, Jason Hauk, the boys from Hepta have a side business called the Panel Shop, PANELSHOPPE. Where they'll put together these panels for you. And I think their philosophy is, why have one of your great techs sitting on a bucket wiring panels when we can do them for you? They'll drop whatever flavor Jace you need in there. These guys do it all day long, so be sure and check those guys out as well. All right, Kenny Myers, with that, I think we've got another week done on Control Talk Now, the Smart Buildings videocast and podcast. So anything else you want to say before we hop off?
No, just that we're going next week. We're going to see... We're going out to Ibicon, Realcomm. It's an incredible venue. It's out there in San Jose. It starts on the Tuesday, June 21st. There's going to be just an incredible, you talk about networking, you talk about, technology, deployed technology, where if you have that Missouri concept and you want to show me how it works, this is a great opportunity. I don't think it's too late. I think you can go up to the beginning of day one and still get there, because you're going to see the most advanced, smart, connected, integrated building concepts in this day and age.
Well, and you're also going to hear from the best speakers on the planet, both from a real estate standpoint and from a technology standpoint. Can't wait to hear what Cade Metz has to say from Wired Magazine. And of course, if you're an integrator or a manufacturer or distributor, I mean, this is where your customers are. This is where they're getting educated, a consulting engineer as well. So you better be there, and you'll see the likes of some of the best consulting engineers on the planet, as well as the best players on the planet. So with that, Kenny Smyers, special thanks to our guest, Ken Smyers from AutomatedBuildings.com. Be sure to check the June issue out.
Ken St. Clair?
All right, with that, what did I say?
Ken Smyers, I'll take it. More credits for me.
All right. So with that, Ken Smyers, a special thanks to Ken Sinclair from AutomatedBuildings.com. The June issue's out. Be sure to check that out. And I'll have to say to you, buddy, enjoy the day. And to our viewers out there, thanks for tuning in. Be bold. Stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers.
Okay.
A lot of us things.
I think they were good, though, because you slapped them right off. It sounds like a talk show when you do that, because talk shows all the time.